Hello everyone, Chaos here, and welcome to another old school RuneScape video. New skill means new ways to make money. And with so much added to the game thanks to the release of sailing, I noticed a bunch of different ways all of the ocean enjoyers could make loads of cash, and even some methods which are also accessible to people who don't really like the new addition. So today's video will be all about ways to fill your pockets thanks to the new skill. Boys and girls, if this video is useful, consider subscribing with notifications on, drop a fat like for the YouTube overlords, and you can join our Discord server with the link in the description to play with me and our amazing community. Today's upload will be divided in 3 different categories. We will look at resource gathering, material processing and production skills, and finally, taking on a few new monsters which I noticed had great potential for money making. I will also order each of the moneymakers based on the sailing level required to go up the higher tier islands gradually and to motivate you to level up your sailing skill. As per usual, I have a big disclaimer for you. Since this is brand new content, there's a good chance prices won't be accurate when you watch this video. I will give you a very rough estimate of the possible GP you can make, as well as around how many actions you can do every trip so you can decide if the methods are worth the grind. Also, remember that what you see is near maximum efficiency because of my skills and gear. With that out of the way, let's begin. Let's start the gathering category with farming because some of these do not even require a sailing level, and that is if you buy hemp or cotton seeds, you can plant them at hops patches at Lumbridge, Sears Village, Yanil, and Alderaan to make a decent amount of cash at the time of making this video. Remember that you need to buy 3 of these seeds in order to plant an entire patch, and right now, one of these seeds for hemp go for 10 KGP, remember that you need the 3 of them, so 30k, and each hemp is going to go for around 4 KGP. You don't really need many of these to make a profit, and the level required for them, which is 37, is very accessible. On the other hand, the cotton needs level 71, each seed goes for 3 KGP, oddly enough since it's higher level, and each of the cotton items goes for 6 KGP, again, at the time of making this video, which you will hear that a lot throughout this new upload. The new coral nursery farming method actually requires a sailing level of 45, because as this is brand new content, you need to go to the Great Conch, and you only have 2 of these in the entire game. I really hope Jagex makes an island where you can access more of these, because right now, it looks like it's going to be pretty painful for Irons to get these resources. At the time of making this video again, these are not profitable, but maybe in the future when people figure out the meta for the new potions, then they are actually going to give you some profit. But if you want to test them out right now, the seeds themselves are not super expensive. However, if you can get the corals out of them and sell them on the Ground Exchange, surely you can keep them and then sell them once people figure out a good method for them. A training method that also requires level 45 sailing, like coral nurseries, is woodcutting camphor logs. These are also located at the Great Conch, and the spot I'm showing is just a few seconds away from the main town where you can find a bank, so trips will be pretty quick. As we will see with the 2 other methods coming up, I heavily recommend a log basket, whether it be attached to a forestry kit or on its own. As most of you know, this essentially allows you to double up on your inventory, and the logs you will chop will first go into the basket and then the 28 spots available to you. I tried to solo in World 608, which is one of the new 2350 total level worlds, and I say this because you could try chopping these at a forestry world, which can boost your level up to 10 if you do this with other people, and this can also trigger forestry events for even more experience. In terms of numbers, I got a full log basket and inventory of camphor logs in just 4 minutes, and with banking and coming back, let's say 5 minutes per cycle at level 99 woodcutting. This gave me about the 1.7 million GP per hour, which is obviously going to be lower by the time you watch this video, and also if you have a lower woodcutting level. These feel pretty similar to teak trees in terms of speed, but because there's a bank nearby, we are storing all of our resources instead of dropping them. A very fresh and interesting training method that was added is catching rainbow crabs at an island called the Crown Jewel. For this you need level 64 sailing and 77 hunter, and I would sort of highly recommend you have the item, the facility in your boat, which you can teleport to your boat once you dock it at an island or at a port, because this place is pretty far away from a bank. Once you get here, you want to build the 5 traps with buckets, planks, nails, and this is a one-time thing so you can catch the rainbow crabs in the future without having to actually build them. When the traps are ready, you're going to lure them with an item called the Fine Fish Offcuts, I believe it is. You're seeing this on screen as well. And then if you are looking at the footage right now, These are very interesting because it seems like they fall into the trap at a set rotation and you don't have to, like, it's not basically RNG like Chinchompas. As soon as you lure it, you're gonna have to wait for a few ticks, a few seconds, and then you're just going to do it in a rotation of 5. And what I recommend is that when you're done or when your inventory is almost full, you do not lure the traps again, because when you teleport to bank your rainbow crabs and then you come back, the traps are not going to be lured anymore. And at the time of making this video, the fine fish offcuts, which you need to lure them, is a little expensive, and that is going to bring your profit just a little bit on the lower end. But this one was pretty interesting because in just the 10 minutes, I was able to make 390 KGP. Interestingly enough, the purple rainbow crab is the more expensive at the moment, and if we do like some very rough math, again, just a few days after release, this is about 2.3 million GP per hour, and if you have the levels required for it, definitely come here because these are going to go down in price eventually. I am not a big fan of wood cutting, but we come back to the skill once again to chop ironwood trees, this time at a place called the Sunbleak Island. This one has higher requirements at level 72 sailing as well as 80 woodcutting, which is actually a little bit more demanding than the previous ones. This one, I also recommend you have your boat in order to have the teleport facility to teleport to it so you can have access to a bank, come back quickly. And also if you have the log basket, that is going to give you basically double the inventory for you to get even more money in less time, and then you have to bank less often. I personally got a full inventory of these, again with a crystal axe, the special, in about 6 minutes, and this turned out to be about 217k in 7 minutes, give or take 1 minute for banking, coming back, resupplying, which also comes out to be about 1.7 mil GP per hour, and ironwood trees and logs are definitely going to be needed for the, I would say, starting the late game sailing, or maybe like finishing the, probably not the mid game, but yeah, these are going to be needed for the high level ships in order for people to make their hulls. And if you take advantage of the logs as of the time of either making this video or just a few weeks in advance, you're definitely going to make a ton of cash with these. The absolute highest level requirement you will see in this video, only because I was not able to get to level 87 to show you frost dragons, is going to a place called the Drumstick Island to chop rosewood trees. This requires level 79 sailing and, get this, 92 woodcutting, which is actually insane. For this one, the same as previous one, go and park your boat there, and if you have the items so you can teleport it there and back and forth between the banks so you can save a lot of time. Otherwise, if you don't have it, this is going to massively cut both an XP and the GP per hour. So I heavily recommend if you're into money making, you want to give it a try, have that in your boat. But once I was able to get here, a full inventory of rosewood logs took me about 8 minutes to chop, and give or take, you know, just a very rough estimate of banking, coming back 1 more minute, I made about 266k GP in 9 minutes, which again, almost the same as camphor and ironwood trees. This comes out to be again 1.7 million GP per hour, but the XP jumps quite a lot. This is a lot better than rosewood. It is just as as redwood. This is just as AFK, but you're gonna get even more experience per hour. So this is a great method if you're looking for the pet, and it's going to net a bit of GP, more than redwoods if you still do not have the beaver. Let's get into production skills with something that doesn't even require any levels other than you being able to get to Auburn because we are going to turn the new logs into planks. Fair warning, right now the rosewood planks are not profitable because if you do the conversion and how much it costs to make one plank, which is 7,500 GP each, may potentially not want to do those for now, but keep an eye out in the market in the future. If they become profitable, then it's definitely going to be worth your time focusing on the higher tier logs, just like you were doing with mahogany. Since you can do planks, regular, oak, teak, and mahogany, you always want to focus on the highest one. However, this time we're going to skip on rosewood for now. Whenever you are looking maybe to get a little bit of GP, try ironwood and camphor logs, turning them into planks. I was getting about 200 GP per plank for ironwood, sorry, and oddly enough camphor, which is the lowest of the newest ones, then that makes 700 GP per plank. If you go to Auburn, that is the new fastest way to get into a sawmill, go back to your bank, drink a few stamina potions so you don't run out of energy. And if you want to use it with the plank make spell, remember that this is going to be slightly more expensive because you need to take into account the runes that you are going to need for the spell, being astral and the nature. So something that does not require any sailing level and you want to make a little bit of GP, try these new planks in order to get a little bit of cash. This next one doesn't require any sailing levels either, but does require that you start the quest The Pandemonium in order to go to the spot called the Pandemonium. This one is really good, especially for the early levels. It requires 1 sailing, 25 mining, and if you want to process a little bit further, then you need 25 smithing. This one goes here because it is both a gathering and a processing money-making method. You're gonna go to the cave in the Pandemonium. I recommend you grab your Varrock armor. You're not seeing it on my character because I forgot. But the important thing is that you want to bring your expert mining gloves if you have them, because once you start picking at those rocks, it is going to give you 4 ore before it depletes, making it excellent in order for you to maybe AFK just a little bit. And then when you have a full inventory, or just as soon as you mine them, you can use the superheat spell in order to make 2 lead ore into 1 lead bar, and that is going to give you 1000 GP profit. Just if you want to process the lead ore into bars, that alone is going to give you 1000 GP per item. However, if you mine them yourself and then turn them into lead bars, that is going to be even better, and you can abuse probably the lowest requirement in new training and the money-making method sailing has to offer at the Pandemonium. As of the time of making this video, making teak repair kits is slightly profitable. You can make just a little bit of GP, but again, if you check the prices when you're watching this video, that may not be the case. However, the cool thing about the repair kits for the boats is that they are always going to be needed, since people go out, maybe do a little bit of hunting, bounty tasks, and the monsters damage the boat. These are always going to be needed, and I personally will not be making any of them, so I'm just going to be buying them on the Grand Exchange in order for my boat to stay healthy. You can take advantage of this by taking planks, nails, and I believe swamp paste, if I'm not mistaken. You're also seeing it on screen right now. You can take it to Port Khazard. There's a bank next to one of the sailors' crafting bench, if I'm not mistaken, where you can make both hull and repair kits. And again, as of the time of making this video, teak is probably one of the only profitable ones, or the one that will yield the most profit. And in the future, you can check out the prices to see which one is going to be the better cost-efficient one, in order for people to get them and repair their kits if their boats take damage. Fair warning though, not all of these are profitable, but I'm just also making sure that you know to check the real-time prices in the Grand Exchange, just so you don't lose money. This is almost the same case for the new cannonballs, because again, at the time of making this video, creating rune cannonballs out of furnace does not yield profit. However, in the future, if people see that there's a new meta for rune cannons, or maybe some other cannonballs that you may potentially want, maybe they will be profitable. But right now, I made just a little bit of GP with mithril and adamant bars. Again, when you watch this video, that may change, but this is another money-making method. Now, if you want to make cannonballs AFK smithing, you're not only limited to making steel ones. However, those are always going to be needed because they go into the dwarven multi-cannon. If you want to do this, I heavily recommend you get the double ammo mold from the Giant's Foundry. I almost forgot the name. You want to get the double ammo mold in order to cut the time it takes to doing this in half, or you can use the normal ammo mold in order to have more AFK time if you want to train sailing. A very interesting thing to note about these ones is that there is a new cannonball shop at a place called, I believe it is Port Roberts. So the money that you're going to be able to make with these is going to be slightly more limited, because they will almost always be at a set price of buying them from a shop. That means that they will not have a lot of variety in the Grand Exchange. So if you want to make these, definitely keep an eye out on the prices before you buy the bars and before you sell the cannonballs. Or you can just make them yourself and have even cheaper ammo whenever you go on bounty tasks. The last money-making method in the production category has us going to Fossil Island, which has both a spinning wheel and a loom close to a bank. We will be using these tools to process both hemp and cotton, and making some of the new materials needed for core boat parts people will be needing for faster boats, and even other things like fishing nets. If you use both hemp and cotton at the spinning wheel, you'll be turning them into their respective ball of material, just like we are able to turn wool into balls of wool. This doesn't sound exciting, which trust me it isn't, but it's a business opportunity which also gives some AFK time. At the time of recording, the only thing that isn't profitable is turning cotton into balls of yarn. This is odd because you can then turn 2 balls of yarn into a bolt of cotton. This one is actually profitable, so if you want to make a bit of cash, process this item twice, otherwise you might land in the reds. If you're able to pay a little bit of attention, you can process about the 2,000 of each material per hour, and the profit in that amount of time will depend on the market, as well as how much you buy and sell the items for. At level requirements of both the 39 and the 73, you will also be pocketing some juicy crafting experience, so this is the perfect option for low intensity games. We start the combat category with the two interesting ones because technically you do not need a sailing requirement for them. However, the better your boat, the more hits it's going to be able to withstand from creatures out in the ocean, and we will start with one called an albatross. You can find many spawns of these south of Etceteria, and they drop one particular item called a swift albatross feather. Why is this important? There's a facility in your boat called the Gale Catcher, and in order to make it, you need 5 swift albatross feathers. I was pretty surprised when I bought them, and I believe they were about 5 million GP each, so if you get yourself one of these bounty tasks, or you just want to kill them for fun, then these are definitely going to be give you some money, because their other drops are definitely not that good. This is almost the same case with another creature called the Armored Kraken, which you can find southeast of Port Robert. These are a lot more dangerous, not only because they can be fought in a multi-combat area, but their attacks are definitely quite devastating to your boat, especially if you have a lower tier one. Their normal loot is really bad if you look at the wiki. However, we're looking for one particular item called the Bottled Storm. This one is extremely important because this is what you need in order to make the greater teleport focus on your boat, and this lets you teleport to it if it is docked at a certain, or at any port actually. So this is what's going to let you go to and back and forth between an island if you want to do resource gathering. And this one, when I bought it, it was 80 million GP. It was incredibly worth it because I can definitely see this being extremely useful if you want to go on Slayer tasks, if you want to go to places where there's not a bank at a specific island. I heavily recommend you either buy or grind this to grind this one. And if you don't really, and if you're not really, I would say, too interested in teleporting to your boat in order to gather supplies, definitely sell it as soon as you can because this one is pretty much almost the most expensive item in the entirety of the sailing release, unless I am missing something, but you can let me know in the comments. Another amazing looking creature we got is called the Lava Strikeworm, which inhabits a place called the Charred Island. You require level 60 sailing to get here, and these also have a level 62 Slayer to kill. The interesting thing about these is that technically they are classified as a worm, which if you look at them back to back, they really look nothing like the worms that we're used to in Mount Karulm in the Perilous Moons dungeon. But if you have blocked the worms in your Slayer block list, which I believe I told you to do on one of my previous Slayer videos, these ones are now off my block list in order for me to go kill them and get lucky with a particular item we're looking after. These called the Dragon Metal Sheet. They drop at about a rate of 1 in 512, and they go for about 5 million GP as of the time of making this video, and they will always be needed for all of the high-tier Dragon facilities and even boat parts that you will need to make for the end-game sailing boats. So definitely take a look at them. It has a superior creature with all of the other Slayer, with another Slayer monster coming up, and these ones are really good looking. Another RuneScape 3 inspired creature we got is called the Aqua Knight. You can find these at a place called Yinsdale, accessible at level 73 sailing. Despite them looking weaker than a Lava Strikeworm, they have a 78 Slayer requirement, and the quirk about these is that you first need to attack them with Slash in order to sever the little light in front of their faces, and that is going to drop their Slash defense in order for you to do more damage if you have a weapon like, for example, a Soul Reaper axe that you're looking at me killing them with in this video. Their overall drop table doesn't really look that good, however, I have them here because of a particular item called the Aqua Knight Attendant. Someone on stream a couple of days ago told me that they sold it for about 20 million GP, which again was about 2 or 3 days after release. And in order to make an item called the Aqua Knight Hopper, which gives your crossbow more firing capabilities, which may not look super strong, but you know, I'm guessing people will find a meta for this in the future. Despite having a lower sailing level requirement than the previous two, this one goes here because it is actually a Slayer boss that I'm super excited to grind because I had all of these Slayer bits prior to this one, and that is the Shell Bane Griffin. This also requires level 51 sailing, as well as obviously completion of the quest that grants you access to the Great Conch called the Troubled Tortugans. And this boss is not really that difficult. I believe it can be considered a mid-tier Slayer boss. The only thing you want to know is that it is weak to stab. I was killing it with a shadow and it was absolutely melting it, but do you really want to be killing a mid-level boss with an endgame weapon? You let me know if you're looking for the pet, that is an option that you can have. However, there are 3 mechanics that you want to watch out for. First of all, you want to be wearing a turtle shell in order to avoid big chip damage. And whether you're killing it with melee or magic, then what you want to do is you want to avoid the... I believe it is a little... like an orange ball that it throws at you, and it's going to start corroding your armor. It will also be able to toss tornadoes out in the arena. I believe it's like 5 of them. If you stand on them, it is going to continuously damage you, so you don't really want to do it. And the last one is that if you're fighting up close, which is, I believe, which is always going to do, if you weigh less than 45 kilograms equipped in your inventory, it is going to knock you back and to deal upwards of 25-26 damage, so it can be quite devastating. However, if you're looking for the pet, if you have really good gear, it is not going to happen too often, because for me, I believe it only happened once per fight, and I'm personally going to be grinding this one for both the pet as well as the Bell's Folly, which is what you want out of this boss, the unique, which is the new mid-game stab weapon equivalent to the zombie axe. If you're an iron, definitely want to check it out if you can't come here before starting the moon's grind, if you have 45 sailing and the 51 slayer, in order to be able to kill the eclipse moon a lot faster. So boys and girls, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and you learned something useful. If you did, tell me which money-making method related to sailing you like the most, whether you saw it in this video or it's something that I didn't cover, and if you include the term RSN and your username in your comment, you'll be entered in our weekly bond giveaway so I can pick you on next Friday stream. I want to give a massive thank you to all the people you see on screen for supporting this channel monetarily. All your contributions go towards my family so I can feed them in a third world country, as well as a local animal shelter we help every month. If you like what I do here, consider clicking the join button below, and you can check all of the benefits and rewards you can get in the videos, in the live streams, and of course in the Discord for a monthly fee. In the next one, I have a video coming up for you guys with a bunch of sailing tips in order to make your time in the ocean a lot more efficient. I hope you're looking forward to it, but for now, I hope you have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I will see you then. Peace.